So the first couple days and couple weeks that Adam came home from his first deployment, it just started with like not wanting to like be around the kids or be around me, and not wanting to like hang out with friends, which was so wildly, vastly different from before he left, because friends and family were everything to him.
Whenever Dad was deployed, my older brother, he would kind of freak out whenever Dad would come back, because like he didn't know like who he was, and he went to go hide.
Through that deployment, 22 of our brothers were killed in action, and then 113 were wounded in action, and this is a unit of just over 400 paratroopers, and really made me question myself and made me question humanity. Behind the mask was chaos.
We met in California, and 6 months later, we got married. He was the first guy I dated longer than 6 months, so I figured why not marry him? It was just everything that I didn't know I wanted or needed. 10 days after we got married, we moved here. And then a month later, found out we were pregnant. And then 10 months later, Adam deployed. So it was wild.
I knew that I was going to join the military. It's something I had thought about for a long time. You know, my brother was always an idol of mine. You know, I wanted to follow in his footsteps. He had joined the Navy, and I kind of saw what that did for him and the pride that he had in being a service member. You know, there was something inside him that he wanted to take it a notch up, and so I joined the Marine Corps. And then after I transitioned to the Army, I was stationed with the 82nd Airborne Division, 573 Cav. Total combat time that I've spent in theater, 33 months, both in Iraq and Afghanistan. It started off with my 06-07 deployment to Iraq. Our support battalion was providing a resupply for us, and I was on the QRF at the time, the Quick Reaction Force, and my job was to clear the route for them as they came in, which I did. I was standing next to this young PFC at the time, McCandless. I don't know, there was something about him that was just so endearing. Every time that he came out for resupply, we'd kind of sit and talk about what our goals were. He had said, I'm saving every dollar that I'm making from this deployment, and when I return, I want to buy a trailer. And then I'm gonna rent that trailer out until I have the money to buy a second and a third and a fourth, until he owned his own trailer park. That was his goal in life. And I remember going to the platoon leader and asking him if he needed me to clear the route on the way out. He said, no, we're good. We'll lead ourselves out. And they did. And it was within minutes that we heard the massive explosion. It wasn't long before I realized that McCandless was a part of that crew. And then there was this massive wave of guilt. Like that should have been me. In that moment, I felt my world start to crumble around me.
I feel like a father's a really important role. It was definitely difficult because he would just be gone on deployment. He lost his brothers. And with my dad having like everything, like with the military, it's just like, it's a lot of stuff that's on top of him and he can't really get off of his chest.
And it just kept getting worse and worse. And there was a lot of alcohol involved. There was a lot of online poker involved. And I saw that as coping for him. I honestly started to think that it was me, that he realized on his deployment that I wasn't the one and it was too fast and I wasn't the one that he should be married to. And we had a kid too, so it was really difficult.
It was really stressful on me and my brothers because there were just some nights where we'd just like be in our rooms and there was like fighting going on.
The reality was I couldn't make sense of my emotions. I couldn't connect with my family on an emotional level.
Because I was hurt, I was hurting people around me. I was letting the anger out on them that I had trapped in.
I think at that point in my life, I was just so lost that it was okay. And if I would have lost my life in a combat zone, then it wouldn't be me taking my own. It would be justified and my family could make sense of it.
But I couldn't live alone or be alone anymore. And so,
I recall her saying that she loved me and that she didn't want the marriage to end, but that she couldn't do this anymore and that I had to seek help or our marriage wasn't going to last.
and that was literally the hardest thing I've ever had to say to my husband.
I went through 6 years in and out of a plethora of different forms of therapy. And through this process, I always felt like I hit this wall. I finally conceded to medication, and it was horrible. I thought that was it. But I also felt nothing else. And it kind of forced me into a hole where I thought there wasn't another option, that this is just what it was going to be for the rest of my life. My former Command Sergeant Major, Ray Edgar, he had just recently posted about the Warrior PATHH program and talking about what it did for his life. And so I reached out to him. This was my Hail Mary. It was my one last shot. I'm not saying that I was suicidal, but I was starting to lean in that direction. I'll never forget this. He said, "Adam, if you do the work, it's going to change your life." When I arrived at the program, there's not a lot of information that's given about it. I didn't know what to expect. When I walked into class the very first day, man, the energy was tight. You could cut it with a knife. You could tell everyone was scared. The guides kind of shared their stories and their backgrounds and their history and what the program had done for them. And then when it came to us, the participants, to share our story, Gabriel, who was one of my fellow PATHH participants, he started, and he was so vulnerable and emotional and honest about his story that it gave me the courage to do the same. I decided I was going to lay it all on the table. If I'm here to work on me, then I'm all in, and that's exactly what I did throughout the entirety of the program. So around day 3 of the program, our guys were explaining to this exercise that we were going to do called the Labyrinth. Warriors in ancient times would use the Labyrinth as they would return home from battle. They would enter the Labyrinth, reflecting on the actions they took, those that they had lost, and when they would reach the center, they would lay all of that guilt, the burdens of that battle down. You're carrying a physical object through this process, and that physical object represents whatever it is that you're struggling with. As I entered the Labyrinth, there was this massive wave of emotions and remembering who he was and what he stood for and his dreams and his goals and his aspirations and the emotions that I had surrounding that event. And when I reached the center, I recall laying this rock down. Somehow in my mind, I thought that I was leaving McCandless there. And then I realized that I wasn't leaving McCandless there. McCandless will forever be a part of my life. What I was laying down in the Labyrinth that day was my guilt. The things that were holding me back from being the man that I want to be was what I was laying in that Labyrinth that day. And when I finally released my grip of the rock and I stood up, this wave of emotion came over me that I can't really describe in words. And it was this sense of freedom that this no longer controlled me. And that I could honor McCandless, and I could honor his memory, and I could respect who he was and the relationship that we had without carrying the guilt of that anymore. I learned that it's never too late. I learned the word hope for the first time. And for the first time, in 16 years, I was in control again.
What's your plan for the day?
I had to take Dean to school. We gotta get some work done. I think I'm gonna decompress a little bit today.
Good. I never wanted to ever tell him that I wanted a divorce. I never wanted to ever not be with him, and I was literally willing to stay forever. And I finally have my husband back. Like, the man I married is here. I had realized I lost him on his first deployment. Like, as fast as I lost him, I got him back.
The main thing I've noticed is just how happy he is now.
He used to kiss me on the forehead all the time when we were dating, and then he didn't do it for years. And then about 5 years ago, he started kissing me on the forehead again. It's my favorite thing. Always has been.
Like, no matter how hurt he was, he tried his best to make sure that we had the best lives we could. He's changed people's lives in ways that I don't think a lot of people can. And I feel like that helps me picture what I want for the future.
My heart is just always full now, and it's great because I thought I lost that person, and I didn't.
My marriage has never been stronger. We've been married now for 20 years, and I thank God every day. For the woman that he put in my life, because her strength of walking me through this for 16 years, standing by my side, until I was able to reach this point, is phenomenal. I'll forever be grateful for her and her love and support. We can't go back and change who we were in the past. What we can do is put our past into perspective. And that was the purpose of this entire week, is to put our lives into perspective. No longer focusing on that black, but focusing on all of that white around it. All of the joys, the hopes that we have in our lives.